Hi, and thanks for joining us today with Agile and Nonprofits. Today we're joined by someone special. So we're joined by Erich Leonard, who is a fellow Scrum trainer by Scrum Inc., happens to be my spouse, but so professionally he serves as a director of Agile practice in the for-profit world. But I know firsthand that his passion for nonprofits runs pretty deep, and that's not my fault. It's because he's served on nonprofit boards. He's coached for nonprofits that have teams teaching kids how to do STEM. And so, well, knowing all that insider information, I wanted to have him share with you some of his favorite books, because you've already heard from some other members of our team, and myself included, about the books that we love to read, the things that have helped influence our understanding of Agile and the Scrum framework. So Erich, I'd love to have you share, what are some of your favorite books in the Agile space?
Yeah, sure. So most of my books that I listen to books mostly. I like audiobooks, so most of the time I have them on my phone. I listen to them when I travel, which I used to do quite frequently. So my reading slowed down a little bit recently, but I've got a couple of books I want to share that I think are connected to one another and also really have helped me in my Agile journey and my learning as I worked with it in both the for-profit and nonprofit space. So maybe to start off, one of my favorites is The Innovator's Dilemma by the late Clayton Christensen. And in that book, they really talk about how established organizations are challenged by innovative organizations, and gives kind of a set of ideas and thoughts and theory around how a established organization can still innovate and to use sustainable innovation as a concept that they can use to stay ahead of some of those up and coming competitors, and how that actually looks. And it goes through some case studies, and it's just a really interesting book. And it's just a really, really great book. It's more than 20 years old, I think, at this point as a book, but still rings true today in the Agile space. And then another book that's kind of connected in some ways to it is The Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge. And that book's really eye-opening from the standpoint of, my background is in engineering and systems engineering. So to me, it should come pretty naturally that the fifth discipline in this book is about systems thinking. But the way he brings it together with the four other disciplines that create systems thinking is kind of interesting. They talk about personal mastery, that's a really important discipline. Having good mental models, being able to create mental models, building shared vision, that people can rally around. And then finally, team learning. So the fact that the team needs to be a learning organization, and the organization as a whole needs to be a learning organization. And when you bring all four of those disciplines together, you get systems thinking. And some of the elements there that he talks about that I think are really good are things like the learning disabilities. So he talks about a set of 7 learning disabilities that happen that cause people to have difficulty with organization and with sort of getting to where they need to get to be a great organization. And then also some laws that govern behavior. So all those things come together and kind of really form a way of thinking and a way of working for an organization, for profit or not for profit, to become a learning organization, one that grows and learns. And then those two are really theoretical and conceptual in nature, but I think that they have some concrete things you can use. But the two other books that actually it's 3 books, but I'll present them as 2. One is by one author. 2 of them are by one author, Erich Ries, The Lean Startup and The Startup Way. And those 2 books, the first book really talks about build, measure, learn. The idea that you run experiments as an organization, build something, build a service for your clients, then measure how that service is performing, and then learn from that and build a new service or update that service. And the idea is you build the simplest thing that can possibly solve that need, and then you learn from it. And the second book out of that Startup Way, is a toolkit that you can use with that, which is actually more actionable. And then the last one, probably, if you're coming from an organization such as I am, that's a large organization, for profit, not for profit, doesn't matter. You probably have a very hierarchical organization. You have, people in positions that work for other people. And the book Accelerate by John Kotter brings together the network idea of agile teams to the hierarchical idea of a traditional organization. And how do you make those two systems work together, this dual operating model? So those books to me are the key ones on my bookshelf that I go back to all the time. I look at the bookmarks in them. I replay the bookmarks to sort of solidify my learning. And I've read each of those a couple times at least.
That is so helpful. And I know that sometimes I'll catch those if we happen to be in the car together, or if I'm in our Audible account, I might see where you have been recently. So I know how much you rely on those particular books. And I think it's really helpful for nonprofits to hear why those have been helpful to you and those that you coach and teach in this space, because I think you would agree, nonprofits in the way they operate, there's an agile mindset that's an undercurrent in so many nonprofits. They might not call it that, but so as they identify what's been happening in their mindset, as they identify that with the capital A, agile, it's really great to have some resources to help expand their thinking. So Erich, thanks for joining us so that we could talk about some of your favorite books and help to hopefully, whether audio version or physical version, build some of our nonprofit professionals' bookshelves about Agile. So thanks very much.
Sure, glad to help out.